Hey guys, this is Todd. Welcome back to my channel, the Sports Card of the Day video series. Today I want to talk about the guy in front of you, John Smoltz. Got a 1997 Bowman Chrome Mint 9. Nothing special about the card. It's one I just recently acquired. You know, the Braves have a special place in my heart, and so does John Smoltz. And I'm going to talk about that for a moment. If it hadn't been for Greg Maddux, who was incredibly, maybe the best pitcher of all time, you could argue that, winning 4 straight Cy Youngs and, joining the Braves, John Smoltz might have been the guy. You also had Tom Glavine. But ironically, as good as Maddux and Glavine were, Smoltz was the guy in the playoffs that won. His career playoff record, 15-4, was the best ever until it was passed by Andy Pettitte. So I want to tell you a few interesting things about John Smoltz. First of all, his career didn't start out great. Obviously he played 22 seasons in the major leagues, all but one of those with the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, his last season he bounced around with a couple other teams. He was an 8-time All-Star. And of course, he was on the trio with Maddux and Glavine. He did win the Cy Young in 1996 with a 24-8 record, the most victories by an NL pitcher since 1972, and that still stands to this day. Now, it's been a while. He had Tommy John surgery in 2001 and he was converted to a reliever. 2 things you should know about John Smoltz. With Dennis Eckersley, those 2 guys are the only ones to ever have a 20-win season and a 50-save season. But this is even more impressive. John Smoltz is the only pitcher ever to have 200 wins and 150 saves. Not bad. Smoltz's career record, 213 and 155 with a 3.33 earned run average, 3,084 strikeouts, and 154 saves. Extremely accomplished. One thing that stands out to me, a lot of you guys that are my age, maybe older, might remember, is Smoltz pitched in one of what is considered maybe the greatest World Series game of all time, which was Game 7 in 1991. And it was John Smoltz against Jack Morris. And the ironic thing is Jack Morris was John Smoltz's hero. And it ended up, Jack Morris went 10 innings and the game ended up 1-0 with the Twins winning that World Series. By the way, that World Series is probably the greatest World Series I've ever seen, even though the Braves lost. Bobby Cox pulled John Smoltz out in the 7th inning. And because Smoltz was a young player, he did not have the seniority to tell Cox to get off the mound. And he said years later, if he'd been where Jack Morris was, a 10 to 15 year veteran, he would have told Bobby Cox, get off the mound, I'm not coming out of the game. Because he was still pitching fine. He was in a little bit of a jam, but he would have gotten out of it. Something else about Smoltz that's very interesting, he was part of the worst trades in baseball history. The Tigers traded Doyle Alexander for John Smoltz. So basically the Braves got John Smoltz and the Tigers got Doyle Alexander, because Tigers are the ones that drafted John Smoltz. And the reason the trade was so bad, initially Doyle Alexander went 9-0 down the stretch in 1987 and helped the Tigers win the division. But the problem is Doyle Alexander was out of baseball by 1989, and Smoltz had a brilliant career that we know, for 22 seasons. Something that's very interesting as well, in 1991, Smoltz was 2-11, couldn't do anything right, and was basically getting close to getting demoted. He went and seen a sports psychologist, and he came back from that and went 12-2 the rest of the season. It was confidence. In the game, I can tell you, I remember the game, it was against the Reds. He was losing, and he turned it around. Smoltz won some very big games for the Braves. Most importantly, one that everybody probably remembers, Game 7 of the 1991 NLCS against the Pirates. They took the Braves to the World Series. Smoltz was also on the mound in 92, Game 7, where the Braves had blown a 3-1 series lead against the Pirates. and they were in a jam down 2-0 in the ninth inning and came back and won the game when backup catcher Francisco Cabrera hit the ball off Stan Belinda that scored Dave Justice and, of course, Sid Bream in one of the greatest games I've ever seen. I was a 14-year-old kid, and I could not believe what I had just seen. When Sid Bream was called safe at the plate, it was one of the greatest moments in my life to this day, because I thought the Braves had blown that series. Unfortunately, the Braves did what the Braves do, and they went and lost the World Series to the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays were a better team. They just had a lot more talent. They were loaded with Hall of Famers. But in 1995, Smoltz got a ring, and he deserved it. The Braves are looked at as the team of the 90s, but they only won one. Tom Glavine talked about that. And Greg Maddux talked about it on a documentary on MLB Network. And they all three said, and I agree with them, it's better to be in contention every year to try to win one and actually get the one that we got than to bounce around from team to team and all over the place and not have a chance at winning the World Series. So I thought that was a great statement by those guys, because Greg Maddux won 4 straight Cy Youngs. He was just completely dominant and considered by many to be the greatest pitcher ever. The professor could put the ball wherever he wanted it. But I thought that John Smoltz didn't get the credit he deserved, just like I don't think Freddie Freeman does today as a player. It's all about Acuna and all this, because Acuna shows a showboater and all that. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman's the best player on the team. And by the way, in the Major League Baseball, they just put out their top 100 players, and Freddie Freeman was ranked ahead of Acuna, which I thought was awesome. He was number 4. Freeman was number 4 in the top 100, finally getting some respect. And Mike Trout was number 1, and that if anybody else had been number 1, there would have been an uproar. Mookie Betts was second, which I can live with that. So I'm sorry for the bouncing. I'm holding my iPad, but I wanted to talk about John Smoltz today, and I think he needs to. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. He was a first ballot with 82.9%. I thought that was a little bit low considering his accomplishments, and considering he was converted to a reliever and was as successful as he was. But he was part of a dynasty. I don't think we'll ever see a trio on the same team like Glavine, Maddux, and Smoltz ever again. Just like, as someone that's in their 40s like myself, I don't think we'll ever see another decade like the 90s. I got to see Jordan. I got to see Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz. I got to see, sports goats that just aren't around these days. Yes, we've got Brady. And yes, we've got LeBron James, who I do not care for at all. I got to see Michael Jordan, the real GOAT. But I go back to Smoltz, Maddux, and Glavine. Maddux was the guy that got all the praise, and rightfully so. But once again, you remove Maddux from the equation, and I'm going to do a video of Maddux sometime down the road. And John Smoltz was a heck of a pitcher. And he deserves a heck of praise and recognition. And by the way, he's a heck of a nice guy. I've met him, and he's a heck of an intelligent guy. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was a scholar. So it's not by chance that Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz were successful, because all 3 of those guys were college educated and were masters of their sport. Tom Glavine could have played hockey, but he chose baseball. And John Smoltz could have did a lot of other things and chose baseball, just as Greg Maddux could have done the same thing. So that's kind of my video for tonight. It's John Smoltz, Smoltzie as he's known. And so just sometimes these guys that are really great players, they just don't get the recognition that maybe their teammate got, or maybe some guys got from back in the day. So Smoltz is the guy to talk about. And on another note, I want to slide over here. This card that I pulled right here, this super short print, Luis Robert, I'm going to sell it. And it's going on eBay for $400 to $500. If anyone knows anyone that's interested, it's mint condition. It's pulled right out of the pack, right into the top loader, penny sleeve, etc. $300 and it's gone. It is a super short print. It's 1 in 2,252 packs. But I'm not tied to Luis Robert, so I will sell it. But it's not cheap because they're rare. But the price I just quoted is cheaper than every one I looked at on eBay. So if anyone's watching the video or does watch the video or knows someone that's a Luis Robert fanatic, PayPal, I have a PayPal account, $300. I'll ship it out. You can own it. It's mint condition, guaranteed. Not a spot on it. All four corners, perfect. That's the video I have for you tonight, guys. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate everyone that tunes in and watches my channel. Obviously, I have a lot of work to do to get better, but I'm working on it. And that's about the best I can do and say. So thank you very much. Once again, sorry for the bouncing. Using the iPad tonight, a little bit different. So next time I'll try to do better and have a little bit more of the steadiness. So Smoltzie gets a little praise. Have a good one, guys.